Mia woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing non-stop. At first, she thought it was her alarm, but when she groggily reached for it, the screen was flooded with notifications. Hundreds. No, thousands. Her heart pounded as she unlocked her phone. 2.3 million views, 85,000 comments. Then the DMs. You're a hero. This man deserved to be exposed. You just ruined a billionaire's life. Hope you can handle what's coming. Are you safe? Be careful. Men like him don't go down without a fight. Her breath hitched. Last night, she had posted a 30-second video under a throwaway account, anonymously, of course. A vague but devastating expose. Billionaire CEO cheats on fiancé with a waitress. Thought he was untouchable. Not anymore. She hadn't expected it to explode. Maybe a few hundred likes, some women in the comments bonding over their cheating exes. But this was war. 6 months ago. Mia's life had been simple. A college dropout, drowning in student debt, working the late shift at the Marlowe, an exclusive restaurant in the heart of London. That's when he walked in. Leo Lancaster. The kind of man who didn't need to introduce himself. His presence alone turned heads. He was all sharp jawlines, crisp suits, and an aura that said, I don't ask, I take. But for some reason, he noticed her. It started with eye contact from across the room. Then, the impossibly large tips. One night, after closing, he had waited for her outside. Rough day? He had asked, offering her a drink. She should have said no. But he wasn't just any man. He was magnetic. And before she knew it, she was in his penthouse. Tangled in sheets. Tangled in him. For months, she had been swept up in a romance straight out of a movie. Private jets, secret getaways, a man who made her feel like she was the only one in the world. Until she found out she wasn't. Mia hadn't even been looking for it. The truth had come to her. A wealthy socialite at the restaurant, one of those women who talked loud enough to be overheard, had mentioned it casually. Leo and Sophia's engagement party is this weekend at the Ritz. Can you believe it? He finally locked her down. Sophia. Mia had almost dropped the champagne bottle in her hands. She had laughed at first. There had to be another Leo, another Sophia. But a quick Google search proved otherwise. Leo Lancaster. Engaged. 6 months. Her world collapsed. That night, she had stormed into his penthouse, shaking. Tell me it's not true, she had demanded, voice barely holding together. Leo had leaned back against his desk, cool and composed. He didn't even look surprised. I never lied to you, Mia, he said, swirling the whiskey in his glass. Her stomach twisted. Was he serious? You're engaged, she snapped. A smirk. A slow, deliberate one. And you never asked. That was the moment she knew. He wasn't sorry. He was proud. That was the moment she knew she had to ruin him. Mia had posted the video without thinking, rage-fueled, heartbroken. Her fingers had typed out every betrayal in real time. She didn't name him directly. She wasn't stupid. But the clues were obvious enough. The internet did the rest. Now, as she stared at the screen, watching her notifications climb by the second, the reality set in. She had publicly humiliated a billionaire. And billionaires? They don't go down quietly. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. We need to talk. Now. Her blood ran cold. Leo Lancaster. He had found her. If you found out your partner was living a double life, would you expose them or just walk away? Let's talk in the comments. And if you love these kinds of wild stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Mia's fingers hovered over the screen. We need to talk now. Her first instinct? Block. Delete. Pretend this never happened. But Leo Lancaster wasn't the kind of man you ignored. A second text popped up. Come to the penthouse, or I'll come to you. Her stomach twisted. Was that a threat? A warning? Either way, she knew one thing for sure. If Leo wanted to see her, he would. Whether she agreed or not. She grabbed her coat. When the elevator doors slid open, the penthouse was exactly how she remembered it. Cold, sleek, untouchable. So was he. Leo stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, back turned, staring at the London skyline like a king surveying his kingdom. His suit was immaculate, his posture effortless. But when he turned to face her, his eyes burned. Mia swallowed hard. Didn't think you'd actually show up, he murmured, voice low. Didn't think you'd text, she shot back, a smirk. Of course, he found this amusing. Leo stalked toward her, slow, deliberate. The closer he got, the harder it was to breathe. You're trending worldwide, he said, tilting his head. My PR team is working overtime because of you. Good, she bit out. For the first time, a crack in his perfect exterior. His jaw clenched. You really think you won this, Mia? Leo crossed the space between them in 2 strides. Tell me, he murmured, eyes locked onto hers, what exactly was your goal? Ruin me? Expose me? She refused to step back. I wanted the world to see you for what you really are. And what am I? A liar, a fraud, a manipulator. Silence stretched between them. Then, instead of anger, something else flickered in his eyes. Amusement. If that's what I am, he said slowly, why don't you take advantage of it? Mia frowned. What? Leo reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded document, and tossed it onto the table. A contract. Marry me. Her breath caught. Excuse me? He leaned forward, voice smooth as silk. You want revenge? Take it properly. You wanted the whole world to know my secrets? Now, take my entire world. Her pulse pounded in her ears. What kind of twisted game was this? You think I'd actually marry you? She scoffed, crossing her arms. Leo didn't flinch. Think bigger, Mia. You humiliated me, made me the most talked about man in the country. What's the best way to kill a scandal? He answered his own question. Replace it with a bigger headline. Mia's stomach twisted. He wanted to fake a marriage to erase the scandal. You're insane, she whispered. No, I'm a businessman, and I know how to turn losses into wins. She grabbed the contract and flipped through the pages. It was all there, a year-long marriage agreement, financial compensation, PR control. Cold, clinical, manipulative, just like him. Mia slammed the papers down. Why the hell would I agree to this? Leo's gaze darkened. Because if you don't, I will ruin you. Mia laughed. Not out of amusement, out of disbelief. You already ruined me, Leo, she said bitterly. I was just some girl working at a restaurant. Now I can't even walk outside without people whispering about me. You think I care about what else you can do? Something flickered in his expression, something unreadable. Then, for the first time, his voice softened. You should. Mia's fingers curled into fists. This wasn't just about fixing his reputation. This was about control. He had lost the narrative, and now he was desperate to reclaim it. But what if? She played the game better than him. A slow, wicked idea formed in her mind. She could say no, walk away, let him burn, or she could sign. But on her terms. Mia took the pen. Leo's expression remained unreadable as she hovered over the dotted line. Then, she smirked. Fine, she said, pressing the pen down. But I have conditions. Leo raised a brow. Oh? I get full control of the narrative. Publicly, I call the shots. Privately, you don't touch me. Ever. His lips curled. Now, where's the fun in that? She finished signing. Guess you'll find out. She tossed the pen onto the table. Leo picked up the contract, scanned her signature, then looked at her. And for the first time since she met him, he looked genuinely intrigued. Would you accept a deal like this for power, revenge, or love? Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more intense stories. Billionaire Leo Lancaster's shock engagement, scandal, or true love? Waitress turned wife, the mystery woman who tamed London's most infamous CEO. From cheater to devoted fiancé, the internet isn't buying it. Mia scrolled through the articles, barely processing the words. It felt like she had stepped into a parallel universe where she wasn't just a nobody anymore. She was the most talked-about woman in the country. Next to her, Leo stood in his immaculate tuxedo, as unreadable as ever. The two of them were in the grand ballroom of the most exclusive hotel in London, a ceremony unfolding before them that neither of them actually wanted. A fake wedding, a real contract, a nightmare playing out in designer clothing. Leo turned to her, his voice low. Smile, darling. Mia forced her lips to curve, her hand locked in his. Cameras flashed, guests whispered, her heart raced. Because tonight, she was officially Mrs. Mia Lancaster. Back at Leo's penthouse, the tension between them felt thick enough to choke on. Mia kicked off her designer heels and turned to face him. All right, Lancaster. You got what you wanted. We fooled the world. Now about my terms. Leo smirked, unbuttoning his cufflinks. You mean the part where I don't touch you? Her skin heated, but she lifted her chin. Exactly. He took a step closer, then another, until the space between them was nothing but electric air. And what if, he murmured, I change my mind? Mia's breath hitched, but she refused to back down. Then you break your own contract, she shot back, voice steady, and I walk away, with every dime you promised me. Leo's smirk faltered for just a second. Then, he laughed. A slow, dark chuckle. Careful, Mia, he said. You might actually be starting to enjoy playing my game. She met his gaze, unflinching. Wrong. She turned on her heel and disappeared into the guest room, slamming the door behind her. Leo Lancaster had just signed himself into the worst year of his life, and she was going to make sure of it. For the first few weeks, their public life was a carefully curated lie. Romantic dinners, hand-holding in front of the paparazzi, playful banter during interviews. But behind closed doors, silent wars, power struggles, a constant battle of who would break first. Leo, to his credit, played the perfect doting husband when the cameras were on. But Mia wasn't fooled. This wasn't love. This was a Cold War disguised in diamonds. One morning, she walked into the penthouse kitchen, still in her silk robe, only to find Leo already seated at the counter, reading the financial section of the newspaper. Without looking up, he slid a credit card across the marble surface. "Go shopping," he said, taking a sip of his coffee. Mia stared at the card like it was poison. "Excuse me?" He finally looked up, bored amusement in his gaze. "People expect a billionaire's wife to look the part. Do whatever you need." Her grip tightened around her mug. "I don't need your money." Leo leaned back, slow smirk forming. "Then why are you here, sweetheart?" Her pulse spiked. She snatched the card. Not because she wanted it, but because she knew it would piss him off. She was just getting started. Mia's plan had been simple: make Leo regret ever thinking he could control her. But the problem? Leo never played fair. He would get under her skin in the most infuriating ways, whispering in her ear at events, pulling her closer than necessary in front of the cameras, throwing in an occasional darling when reporters were watching. It was all fake, but her heart didn't know the difference. Then came the night of the charity gala. Mia had been ready, dressed in a sleek black gown, her makeup flawless, her hair cascading in loose waves. She was prepared to play her role. But when Leo saw her, for the first time, he hesitated. Something flickered in his gaze, something unreadable. And for one terrifying moment, Mia forgot this was a game. She should have known peace never lasted with Leo Lancaster. The next morning, Mia woke up to chaos. Her phone was flooded with messages. Headlines screamed at her. Mia Lancaster caught cheating on her husband. Wait, who's the mystery man she was seen leaving with? Mia's breath caught. Her hands trembled as she clicked on the images. Paparazzi photos of her, talking to a man outside the gala, a blurred shot of her walking away with him. Mia's heart stopped. She knew what this was. A setup. She stormed into the living room, where Leo was already waiting, phone in hand. His expression? Deadly. "Care to explain?" His voice was deceptively calm. Mia's blood boiled. "That's nothing. That guy was a journalist asking me about..." Leo threw the newspaper onto the table. "The world doesn't see nothing. They see you making me look like a fool. Again." Mia gritted her teeth. "You seriously think I'd be stupid enough to actually cheat on you?" Leo stared at her, something sharp and dangerous in his gaze. Then, his lips curled. "That's the thing, Mia." He took a step closer, voice low, intoxicatingly lethal. "You think this is still just a game, but you forgot one thing." His hand lifted, tracing the wedding band on her finger. "You're mine now." Can a relationship built on deception ever lead to real trust? Or is betrayal the only outcome? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you love stories filled with drama and twists, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more. Mia refused to break first. Leo was waiting for it, expecting it. Expecting her to snap under the pressure, to storm out, to admit that she'd lost the game. But she wouldn't. Not yet. Not when she knew the cheating scandal had been a setup. She just didn't know who was behind it. And until she figured that out, she had to stay one step ahead. "You want me to beg?" she asked coolly, arms crossed. "You think I'm going to fall at your feet and apologize for something I didn't do?" Leo leaned back against the marble counter, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "I think," he murmured, "you don't realize what kind of fire you're playing with." Mia narrowed her eyes. "And I think you're so desperate to control the narrative that you'd rather believe a lie than admit you actually trust me." For the first time, Leo faltered. It was barely there. A flicker of something behind his cold expression. She took a step forward, voice dropping. "Tell me, Leo, do you really think I would betray you?" Silence. But in that silence, she saw it. The hesitation. For the first time since this marriage began, Leo Lancaster didn't know if he was right. The days that followed were filled with icy silence. Leo was colder than ever, refusing to acknowledge her beyond the necessary public appearances. But Mia had no time to care because she was busy tracking down the truth. She spent hours scrolling through online forums looking for clues. Someone had planted that story. Someone had set her up. And then she found it. A private message from an anonymous account. "You're looking in the wrong place." It wasn't the press. It was someone close to you. Mia's stomach twisted. Someone close to her? Her pulse thundered as she read the second message. "Check Leo's team. Start with Damien Cross." Her blood ran cold. Damien, Leo's right-hand man, the one person he trusted more than anyone. Why would he frame her? And more importantly, did Leo know? Mia didn't wait. She stormed into Leo's office the next night, documents in hand. Evidence, screenshots, everything she had. Leo barely looked up when she entered. "What do you want, Mia?" he muttered, rubbing his temples. "Proof." She threw the papers onto his desk. "Damien set me up, and I think you knew." That got his attention. Leo's eyes snapped to her, sharp and unreadable. "What? Your loyal assistant? He's the one who fed that cheating story to the press." She folded her arms. "Now the real question is, did you already know? Or were you just too happy to believe the worst about me?" Leo stood slowly, his expression darkening. "Careful, Mia," he warned, but she wasn't backing down. "You don't get to warn me, Leo. Not when you've been treating me like the villain in your own goddamn story." Silence. Then he exhaled, running a hand through his hair. For the first time, he looked exhausted, and that terrified her more than anything. "I didn't know," he admitted, "but I should have." Mia felt her heart squeeze. For months, she had been locked in this battle with him, this endless cycle of revenge, power struggles, and carefully crafted lies. But now, she saw it. Leo wasn't just playing the game, he was trapped in it. "Why did Damien do it?" she asked quietly. Leo stared at the documents on his desk, jaw tight. "Because he thinks I'm weak when it comes to you." Her breath caught. "And are you?" His gaze lifted to hers. Slow, intense. Yes. It wasn't the answer she expected, and it wasn't the one she knew how to handle, because for the first time, Leo Lancaster wasn't speaking like a billionaire CEO. He was speaking like a man who had just lost a war he didn't know he was fighting. Mia felt her heart squeeze. For months, she had been locked in this battle with him, this endless cycle of revenge, power struggles, and carefully crafted lies. But now she saw it. Leo wasn't just playing the game, he was trapped in it. "Why did Damien do it?" she asked quietly. Leo stared at the documents on his desk, jaw tight. "Because he thinks I'm weak when it comes to you." Her breath caught. "And are you?" His gaze lifted to hers. Slow, intense, yes. It wasn't the answer she expected, and it wasn't the one she knew how to handle. Because for the first time, Leo Lancaster wasn't speaking like a billionaire CEO. He was speaking like a man who had just lost a war he didn't know he was fighting. Mia felt her throat tighten. "Leo, if you don't trust me, then what the hell are we even doing?" He exhaled, stepping closer. "I don't trust anyone, Mia," he admitted, voice raw. "That's the problem." And just like that, the walls between them cracked. For the first time in months, they weren't enemies. They were just two people standing in the wreckage of their own making. Mia swallowed hard, heart hammering. "Then maybe it's time to start." Leo studied her for a long moment. Then, without another word, he reached out and pulled her into him. His lips crashed against hers. A kiss that wasn't a game. It wasn't about power or revenge or contracts. It was real. And Mia didn't know whether that made it better or so much worse. Can trust ever be rebuilt after betrayal, or is it always the beginning of the end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you love stories full of twists and drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. But she didn't. Because for the first time since this twisted game began, nothing felt fake. Not the way Leo's hands gripped her waist, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Not the way his lips moved against hers, urgent, desperate, as if he'd been waiting for this moment just as much as she had. For months, they had played a game of power and manipulation. But now it was just them. And that terrified Mia more than anything. She pulled back first, breathing hard. Leo's hand stayed on her waist, his expression unreadable. "Mia," he murmured. "This isn't pretend anymore." Her chest tightened. It never had been. For days, neither of them spoke about it. But something had shifted. The tension between them wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about what came next. Leo was different now, softer, in ways he didn't want to be. He let her in, just enough to make her feel the cracks in his armor. And Mia? Mia was starting to lose the war she swore she'd win, because now she didn't just want revenge, she wanted him. Which is why his next move shattered her. Mia had been searching for answers. For weeks, she had been untangling the web of lies surrounding Leo, the people trying to take him down, the men who wanted to see him fail. And then, she found it. A contract. One that had nothing to do with their marriage. One that proved everything she feared was true. Mia stormed into Leo's office, the papers clutched in her shaking hands. "Tell me this isn't real," she demanded. Leo looked up from his desk, brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" She threw the contract onto the table. "You were planning to end this from the start." Leo's face darkened. Because the contract? It was an exit strategy, a legal plan detailing how their marriage would end without giving her anything. No power, no money, no revenge, just a clean break, as if she had never existed. Mia's stomach twisted. "So what was all of this, Leo? Just another business deal?" His jaw clenched. "I never planned to use it." "But you wrote it." Her voice broke. "You were always going to leave me, weren't you?" Silence. That was all the confirmation she needed, and it destroyed her. Mia turned on her heel. Leo grabbed her wrist. "Mia, wait." She yanked away. "No, you don't get to do this." He exhaled sharply. "You were never supposed to see that." "But I did." Her voice shook. "And now, I get to decide how this ends." Leo's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "And what do you want, Mia?" he asked, voice low. She swallowed. Because she didn't know anymore. Power? Revenge? Or him? And then she realized she wanted all of it. Mia stepped closer. "You said I had the power, remember?" she whispered. Leo watched her, tense, waiting. "So I'm going to make you beg." His breath hitched. "I don't beg, Mia," she smirked. "You will." Leo's grip tightened. His pulse raced. And that was when he knew. He had lost. Because Mia Turner wasn't his pawn anymore. She was his queen. And she had just taken the throne. Mark, was this a battle of love or a game of power? Who truly came out on top? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love gripping stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more.